Yeah, The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. This is it is the 2003 copyrighted, so about 2003 fictions, and I think the English translation is about 2009 that came out, and so. Yeah, about 2003 maybe. I think this book became very popular um, in Japan. I think I saw the movie based on this book, and because it's like I knew then that this book could become like a very popular book, and so I was curious, and I saw the movie, and I didn't feel that much at the time. And a couple, weeks ago, I borrowed this from the books, the library here, because it's rare to find a Japanese book. And I always wanted to read this book, even though I didn't get much impression from the movie. And so the book is a little bit, I would say, different because it's like an ambiguous approach to the mathematics, and introducing like a maybe two the equation, two Euler's equation. One is the you add from one natural number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one by one, and end up with what the sum of this number to the number 10 or number 100 or number 1000, and what is the sum of those natural numbers, and try to figure out rather than adding 1 and 2 and 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, and all these things just one are added up from the beginning. Rather than doing that, there's some other kind of equation, figure out the equation to find out that. So that is the, I think, initial half of the book is that this woman who is a housekeeper, and she had a son about 10 years old, and professor she's working for, old professor who is got like a traffic accident or something. So he is a great mathematician, very bright mathematician, but for some reason, I think after the accident, he couldn't remember what the thing happened about 80 minutes or so. I think he can retain the current memory, but after that he forgets. Anyway, so this professor, this woman, mother, and I think her husband, I think, could be also the mathematical profession related maybe, but I think apparently they are separated or divorced. So she had a son in the custody, and she's taking care of her, taking care of him. And so it's about those three people's relationship, and of course the son and the professor become very friendly. Professor liked this son, and son also liked him, and so the relationship of those three people. And so I talked about this one mathematical problem that they could figure out how could achieve the equation to figure out what is the from starting from 1 and adding all the numbers to like a relatively large number, like 5,000 or something, and that's you cannot just add from the beginning and end up with 5,000 additions there. But there's equation to solve. And I myself, I used to be an engineer, so I got curious. Wow, this is kind of interesting. It's a fiction, like a small fiction. However, it goes into this territory where, the science-minded people maybe get interested because of this particular program of mathematics. And so you kind of investigate. I myself try to come up with an equation, and I came up with an equation completely different from the book. And I felt very good about that. But the book approach is more, I think I would say, layman's approach to find the solution. The other equation is Euler's equation. E to the minus e to the I pi plus 1 equals 0 or something like that. Which I'm not that familiar, so I have to take a look at it. It's I would say some equations meaning is in there, but book itself, it doesn't go to that. It just showed the particular Euler's equations and a question mark. That's where it ends. So definitely, if you read as problem solving, equation solving, mathematician's approach, no, it's not that. It's more or less like those mother and son, very bright, kind of interested in solving the mathematical problem from layman's point of view. It's not like you have education to learn all the mathematics, but you kind of approach it as non-mathematicians, non-scientific approach to get to the solution. And I think that's kind of interesting, and I think that's probably most reader who is not mathematically oriented get interested in that. But also at the same time, it's like for those people, it's a very difficult problem to deal with, because mathematics, not so many people are good at mathematics or enjoy mathematics. Some people really hate mathematics because, whatever the reason. And those people are mostly like love to read the fiction, fiction about family relationship or love relationship and so forth. So it's conflicting audience's ideas there and merging. I thought it was merging, but I'm not sure it merged well because it doesn't go anywhere for people to come up with some nice conclusions or anything. The other thing is that Japanese culture, which is about the baseball, watching the professional baseball games, and it became fun of one baseball teams and collecting all the baseball cards and talk about that. So that's more or less like 50% of it. They talk about the baseball fan, and a baseball game, and all these famous baseball player, 1960s, 70s, 80s maybe, 90s even. I don't know when that was. So they talk about that. So that's also for non-baseball fan, it's kind of boring because you don't see the enjoyment in talking about the baseball cards or baseball game itself. I'm not a person who is into baseball games or playing baseball or following the baseball professional baseball league or anything like that. So I thought it was kind of tedious for me to read about all these baseball cards and so forth. But I think in the end, I think it's about this relationship with professor who is losing his mind, but yet still very bright, mathematician. And mother and son who is relatively bright, but not so much educated or anything. And so they go somewhere, but it's about that. It's about the story of those three people's relationship. And for that, kind of interesting, but at the same time, it's kind of not to the point where you get hooked and you have to read to the end, or you get very deep inside of the kind of society or mathematics or the Japanese baseball culture, so anything like that, but not like that, but still touches, try to go there, but it doesn't go. And so that's kind of a little bit disappointing. But I could see this book become a popular book for some people. I think some Japanese reader loved it probably, but for me it's like the way she writes. It's about like a daily life type of things, the small things, and try to go somewhere in that kind of a writing. But I think it try to go and almost there, but it doesn't go there. So that I felt a little bit disappointing for me as a former engineers. And we were trying to figure out this mathematical equation, what that meaning is, and so forth. But the focus is not there, definitely. And so, but it's trying to allude people to that area, which is kind of interesting, I would say. As a fiction writer, but this is a fiction which is about 180 pages, and so it's not that big, but I think if you are a little bit mathematically minded, I think you may enjoy this book. I think the part that she talked about mathematics is kind of a enjoyable read. So I recommend that. And